He's also been in contact with the Virginia governor's office. We're told they've been in close communication with all of the local authorities down in Charlottesville as this situation unfolds. And again, I'm looking at this video right now, and you can see all the a group of veterans standing behind the podium. He's definitely going to talk about this bill, which he has been working on so hard behind the scenes. But right off the top, Julie, expect a very powerful statement about Charlottesville.
You know, you mentioned David Duke. It's interesting and important to bring him up because you want to disassociate for all of those who are trying to pin these two together. President Trump has disavowed not only his ugly language, but his whole message. And David Duke is now lashing out at President Trump on Twitter. And you read one of his tweets. Here's another one. Our people were peacefully assembling and attacked by the same radical leftists who invaded your meetings and attacked your supporters. Peacefully assembling doesn't necessarily describe what Doug McElway has been covering. And now we heard about this car accident that we're still getting more information about, whether or not it was intentional or not. It could have been that this driver was trying to defend itself by projectile objects being thrown at the car. But nonetheless, it's a mess down in Charlottesville, and peacefully assembling is certainly not a way to describe all of this. The president, by the way, during the campaign trail, let's just go back for those who are trying to pin this down on the president, has been calling it his fault because these people who voted for him feel empowered by him. Back in November of 2016, Eric Trump actually said that Duke, and I'm a quote, this is a quote, deserves a bullet. I mean, is that friendly language between the Trump administration and David Duke? No, it is not. What more can the president, do you think, say to the American people to further disassociate himself with the hatred that we're seeing right now in Charlottesville?
Yeah, Julie, well, I mean, no question. I mean, President Trump has repeatedly denounced it. That statement from Eric Trump, I'd actually forgotten about. I mean, make no mistake, President Trump has tried to get ahead of this and say that he wants no part in this. But David Duke and his supporters keep tying President Trump's name to their rallies, to what they are promoting, whether President Trump likes it or not. So I think the one thing that people might want to see from President Trump again today is just to say it again, to disavow it one more time, given the fact that all of this is still ongoing down in Charlottesville. But it certainly would be nothing new from President Trump to say this, to denounce the support from David Duke. But I think it would go a long way. And a lot of people on Capitol Hill, both Republicans and Democrats, have said that they would like to hear that kind of language. They would like to hear President Trump actually specifically cite the people or the persons, or specifically name the perpetrators of the violence, of the hatred, of the protests that he's been already talking about and denouncing on Twitter. So I think the key here is really to see just how strongly worded President Trump's statement is, and whether or not he actually names the group that he has been condemning all morning long in those tweets.
We are awaiting President Trump's remarks on Charlottesville regarding the Virginia protests, if you're just joining us on the left of your screen there. Earlier, Donald Trump had tweeted, I am in Bedminster for meetings, a press conference on VA, Veteran Affairs, and all that we have done and are doing. Unfortunately, Veterans Affairs are going to be taking a back seat to what has essentially turned into a racist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. He says, Charlottesville sad, exclamation point. Now more pressure on the president, obviously, to address these people, many of whom, in fact, held celebrations after the president was elected back in November and in January, throughout the entire election. Some of the organizers, some of the people who are actually behind the organization of these rallies are, in fact, people that also held rallies outside the White House and trying to put themselves in alignment somehow with this president. One of the organizers had basically, this guy by Spencer, had his followers yelling, "Hail Trump." I mean, what kind of message does that send? Kristen Fisher, we'll get back to you in a second.